My name is Jessica Singewald. I teach second grade at Vero Beach Elementary School. And I'm going to share with you guys a project that we did for project-based learning a couple of years ago. Actually had a PowerPoint already made, so we just decided to use this one as an example today. And we'll go ahead and go through the project and the outcome. All right. You can go ahead.
I'm trying. There we go. There we
Okay.
I'm not in, you're not in control. I'm so sorry. I got you.
It's okay. I'll say next. Okay, so we have design elements for PBL projects. You have a problem or a question that you bring to the students first, and then you have sustained inquiry throughout the whole project, authenticity. You want to give the students voice and choice, so it's their project. They feel like they take their ownership of this project. You have reflection, critique and revision throughout the whole project, constant critique and revision. And then at the end, you want it to be a public product. And we'll kind of go through how we did all of those elements. Okay, go ahead. So we were presented a space on campus. It's a little room inside our library. And we basically told our students that, hey, we have this room and Crayola is going to give us $900 to do something with this room. So let's start brainstorming. What do you guys think we should do with it? And if you click to the next slide, Debbie, we had our principal, Miss Emerson. She came into our classroom. She's very dramatic when she came into the classroom. She's like, oh my goodness. So our school, their already reading scores are pretty low right now. And, you know, I heard you guys are working on a room, and can you think of something that you can do to like help our reading scores increase? And so then from there on out, the kids started to brainstorm what that little room could be in the library, and they kind of came up with like a book nook. So this could be a little space inside the library where the kids can go in and read, and kind of have a special little place on our campus that it's solely for reading. And if you click the next slide, they kind of decided that they would start sketching out what the room would look like. And as far as us teachers, we printed out informational articles on, for example, music that helps students succeed. We printed out articles on colors and what room colors would do for students, or, you know, anybody that's trying to focus and concentrate. We did lighting, certain types of lighting, and then we also did articles on flexible seating, the effects that flexible seating has on students and their learning. So we went through all of those articles. We wrote informational papers on them, and then the students started to come up with ways that they can implement that information and put it into their room. Now, there we had, I think, 7 or 8 different groups in our classroom. We had like 34 students in our classroom, so there were different groups, and it was all about teamwork. So they had to discuss what they would do for their room. So they would take all of that information from the articles, and they had to collaborate, which was very difficult for them at first. We had to do a lot of modeling. I co-taught with another teacher at the time, so we would show how there was conflict. No, I think this should go in the room, or no, I think this should go in the room, and how we would resolve that by using the articles and the information. Well, it says here that if we use the color green, this is calming. It has a good effect on our brains to get us calm and to read. And so we had to model a lot of that. If you click to the next slide, they had a floor plan that they started sketching out. Go ahead and go to the next one. we were given a budget of $900. So on the right, we have a catalog for the Book Nook. And Mrs. Smith, the other teacher that I co-taught with, we put together a catalog of a whole bunch of different items that they could put into the Book Nook. Flexible seating items, different furniture, different decor, all of that stuff. And some things were practical and other things were not practical. And then we gave them another spreadsheet where they could put the item name, the price, the quantity, and then we have right there the little work section. We happen to be teaching double-digit and triple-digit addition with regrouping, and subtraction as well. So that standard worked well with this project. So the students would have to budget out all the items that they wanted in their room. And it was really funny to hear the students discussing, oh, well, I really want a futon, but if we get 3 bean bags, we would have this, or, you know, just talking about budgeting and what was practical and what wasn't. It was really interesting to hear a bunch of second graders discussing what's important and what's not important for the room. Because at first they were like, oh, we can get a bunch of lamps, we can get this, we can get art. And then they started to look at their budget and realize, no, we gotta put something in here that's gonna work. All right, go ahead and go to the next slide. Throughout the whole project, we had a bunch of checklists, a daily checklist or weekly checklist for each group on what we expected them to do for that week. It was very flexible. There were some days where we're like, okay, this is not gonna work. Let's go back to the drawing board and put this in and have this checklist. So for project-based learning, it's very authentic. It's very real, and it changes every day. When you think that you're going to be doing something with your students and then you realize, okay, this is not going to work, or this worked and we can make it better by doing this, it changes day by day. On the right, you can see a group's work that they did, all of their items that they wanted in their room, how much it would cost, the total price. Down below is their flashcards of their presentation. The students had to present to a real audience. And so we had a checklist and rubrics that the students would practice throughout the whole project of what was expected for their final presentation. And they would go and practice that several times in front of us, thinking that, oh, we have everything that we need for this room. And their presentation was lacking, so there was a lot of practice with that. If you click the next slide, the students created a 3D model of their space, and we used homestyler.com, and the students were able to put in the furniture that they were going to buy. So the lamps might not look the same as the lamps that they wanted from the catalog, but they could put lamps in, they could pick the color, they could pick the furniture. There were bean bags, there were futons, there were rugs, there was all of these different items that they could put into their room, which was for their presentation. You can click to the next slide. These are 2 examples of 2 different groups in their rooms, and you can tell that they both paid attention to the informational article on the color green. The research shows that green is great for students and reading comprehension. So the students took that information and they put it in their book nook. Okay, go ahead and click to the next. And this is the group that we had. We had all of their parents come. We had faculty and staff from our school come. We had members from the Learning Alliance come. We had school board members come. So we had a big audience, and this is what project-based learning is where they take everything that they've learned and they're presenting it to an audience. And so all the groups presented, they dressed in Sunday best clothes. And the fun thing is as you're watching the kids present their book nook, you had no idea which kids were reading on a kindergarten level, or Spanish was their first language and they were still learning English at that time, because they practiced so much and they had their group collaborate with them, and there was this buy-in with PBL of, this is our room and we worked really hard on it and we want to show you this. And the parents were just amazed, because they never would have thought that some of their kids were able to get up in front of a huge audience and explain this project to them with ease. It was beautiful. Go ahead and click to the next slide. So at BIE.org, there's a bunch of PBL planning sheets that you can utilize, and this is the one that we happened to use at the time. You can click the next slide. And this is our guide, where we would have our learning outcomes, our checkpoints. These would be like our checklists or our rubrics that we were using. You can click to the next slide. This was week to week. And honestly, we would start on a Monday and then we would start erasing what we had planned for the rest of the week, because it was like, okay, so we thought that the kids were going to be ready for this, but we have to do a lot of modeling, especially when it comes to collaboration. The students really struggled at first with collaboration and what that looks like, because they weren't used to working with students that maybe weren't reading on their grade level, or students that had some behavior problems, or students that were a little bit different. So they had to work hard on that part first before we dove into the rest of the project. But once we got rolling, it was really fun and easy. You can go to the next slide. Like I said, flexibility is key. It changed every day on what we needed to do to be successful. You have to be clear, super clear on what your expectations are for your students. You can't just say, okay, here's homestyler.com, go ahead and make your room. No, we had to model it. There was a lot of modeling, and you can bring in so many standards to do a PBL project. And that's basically it for that project. We had a lot of fun.